bienvenue Napa Valley, Raymond Vineyards. Dear friends, welcome to JCB Live Wine Style. Another bright, exciting, inspiring, ethereal day. We are almost in levitation. I'm feeling the energy. Stephanie Putnam, Director of Winemaking.
Levitating.
There she is. Kathy George, 3+ decades at Raymond Vineyards, bringing history, heritage, the foundation. Philippe Melka, our extraordinary, talented, the most well-known Frenchman in America. This is him, the Lafayette of Napa Valley. Thank you. We're so honored to be together. And dear friends, for you to know, Philippe started September 4th, 2009, when we acquired Raymond. The day one of Raymond, he's been guiding us with Stephanie and Kathy and Thane Knutson, who joined us as well the first day of Raymond acquisition. So,
right.
This round table has been your purveyor of excellence and senses for the last 11 years.
We're so happy to be here. Hopefully another wine beautiful session. So it's basically working with 2019 vintage, which we know it's another very successful vintage in Napa.
So why is it so successful? And dear friends, if you don't know Philippe Melka, there he is. He exists. It's not a cardboard outline figure of him. He's alive. Philippe Melka, the best French winemaker's influence in the history of Napa Valley. I want to stress that. Number one, it's him. So Philippe, tell us why 2019 and what's your view?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be brief, but I think, you know, being here for so long, since 1991, I really experienced many vintages that we all know. And Napa Valley basically, I think, really has proven that can produce great wines over the years. And the challenge always been in Napa is not the rainfall like we can have in Europe, but it's more like the heat event that we can have. Those 100 degrees temperature really can affect basically those beautiful grapes. So in 2019, the beauty of it, we didn't have those heat events. And basically we were able to really choose the harvest date.
Yes.
It was much easier. And because the rainfall during spring really helped the vines to grow nicely and regularly, I would say, we had also good acidity. I think, you know, that's another very important factor in Napa. We want good acidity for keeping the freshness, obviously. But we want also beautiful sunlight. We have always a sunlight here, so those wines are very colorful, a lot of deep color,
yes,
and always very structured. But we want really the tannin structure to be very refined and sophisticated. And I think 19 really have this beautiful full package, freshness, really refined, great tannins, and at the end, great color as well to make a strong personality there.
Ooh.
So we're very excited.
So Philippe, 30 years now, it's amazing. You were a baby. And Philippe, dear friend, studied geology and pedology and the old art of the soil. And you chose Napa Valley because you thought it was going to be one of the best ever in the history of time.
You know, it's always very difficult to connect basically the soil with the quality of a wine.
Yes.
But as you know, the Bordeaux people have been doing this study for many years, starting in the 50s, and of course way before. But really seriously, scientifically, I would say starting back in the 50s. So we knew right away by digging the soil pit and just looking, observing what we had in Napa Valley that we could make some really world-class wines.
Wow. So dear friends, we up for a treat because we have Stephanie Putnam and Kathy George. So two magnetic ladies in the heart of Napa Valley running you know, one of the leading estate in Rutherford and St. Helena. So this is a very big deal. To all of you ladies, you can see that leadership comes from those ladies. And it's a very exciting round table, as you're going to see as we start tasting, because the energy around the table flows majestically and very fluidly. And this is why, Stephanie, you need to define what we're doing today, because, dear friends, this table, this group of people here, and I'm really more the spectator, I'm learning from them, I'm their students. I've been learning for 11 years now how to appreciate Cabernet even more than ever before. And they are making 95 to 100 point wine. So it's a very serious table. We're not joking here, this is the heavy league. So I'm a little intimidated, I have shivers. That's why I keep a Philippe Melka stainless steel table and a chair to cool me down a little bit of the excitement. So on that note, Stephanie, would you please tell us what we're going to be doing now?
You know, those glasses actually look really good on you. They do.
Dear friends, can you please in the chat add some little hearts if it's sexy, or some thumbs down if I should change my look?
I think it looks good. You made it a little too small.
Thane, how are you, Thane?
I didn't realize that you had some visions.
So what we are doing is we are working, as Philippe already indicated, we're working on our 2019 generations Cabernet, and in an attempt to make the highest possible quality wine, we are actually not only just using specific lots from specific vineyards to blend, but we're distilling it down to which barrels from this lot to use. So currently right now we've got 2 different lots, and we want to pick and choose which barrels we want to use. New French oak, which Coopers, or old French oak, all French oak.
Ooh la la! Isn't it one of the most exciting exercises for you, Kathy, as well?
Yeah, tasting is quite the experience, and to look at each vintage and barrels and dive down, it's great.
Hasn't it been exciting the last 10 years? Haven't you had fun?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, wild ride, doing a lot.
Fun time. Thane, what's your view? Coming all the way from Oklahoma and ending up in the heart of Napa Valley, making the finest wine. How does that make you feel, being at that table?
I mean, not to go against my homeland, but I mean, agricultural utopia. It's awesome, and getting to work with the 19th vintage is just so much great fruit on the table. We just have to decide which one is going to make the cut. It's a good problem to have.
So would you say it's probably one of the best vintage since you started?
It is up there. You know, it's hard to choose favorites. I always tell people, you know, there's something good out of any vintage, and people really want us to commit to one of our kids.
We can't.
It's a very hard thing to commit to just one of our children.
So you're trying to say that the family is all equally as phenomenal?
I don't want to give one kid the winning hat.
I think it comes down to every vintage has its personality, and there are some times when that personality shines more than other vintages. Just like with children, sometimes the children are doing great, and other times maybe not so good. So
It's always a nice, healthy conversation. That's what I love about it, when we have to decide about the best vintage. If you're French, you always say the next vintage will be the best one. Of course, here we try to, in this group, be a little bit more realistic and try to understand a vintage. Takes a while. We sometimes we're not sure 100%. The wine aged in barrel for 2 years, and sometimes we start to have a perception, you know, the first 6 months could change over time. So what we know about 19 is when the quality during the aging process in barrels is improving every month. It's a really good sign usually for a great vintage.
And that's what you feel.
And that's what we're having today with 19.
So, dear friends, after this amazing introduction, I think everybody needs to reserve their 2019. Now is the time. Because the beauty of what we've lived with generations, as an example, all the district of Raymond, the Velvet Signature Series and all that is we sold out all the time, which is a great problem to have, but it's a challenge for a lot of you. So make sure you jump on the vintage, because I think we need, as you just said, to become less linear in our approach and really accentuate, as we do, not only in Bordeaux but Burgundy as well, the vintage and the highlights. Some are greater to drink faster, some are greater to age longer, and I think it's important for all of us, dear friends, to build cellars where we age wine, and you give time, right? Because we're here to make wine that are meant to last forever, most of the time, right?
Absolutely. At the price point that we are selling wine in Napa, it's always about quality. And what's mean quality for a lot of people, they don't really understand the word. It's basically aging. We know we're trying to make wine who can age for a long time. And we feel confident, after so many vintages in California, that those wines can age at least for 20 years and more, 30 years obviously as well, because we tested those wines that we made back in 90s, early 90s, and for people back in 80s and 70s, and we know that those wines are aging extremely well.
That's right.
So,
and Philippe, on that note, as we've crafted generations together since 2009, and I think it's humbling to see the progress we've made. Thanks to all our French journalists giving us as well honest reviews, sometimes not the one we wish, but sometimes the one we aspire to have. And we've gradually gone up. What is your view of the last 11 years at Generations, Raymond, and where we're going?
when it's obviously a very complex question, and we can talk and talk for a long time, but when we started back then, I think, it starts, the name Generation really inspiring us.
Yes.
Generations, you have really a feel of tradition.
Yeah.
And you have also a feel of the wine of the future.
Yeah.
And for the future, the new crowd, the new people wants to discover high-end wines in Napa. So we always had in mind with Stephanie, Thane, and Kathy basically to create a wine who can be really appreciated by the customers who've been around for a long time up here. Raymond, it's a winery who've been here for a while. And also can also please the palate of the new generation.
Yeah.
And I think, we have basically make a wine, ideally for me, who can really have, this kind of pleasing effect on both sides.
That's right. And I think that's what is so important with Generation. I feel, you said it so well, heritage and future. And I feel, thanks, dear friends, to this amazing collection of great minds, that we are defining today, since 2009, but even more than ever before, the future of a style. And maybe, Stephanie, as you give us the rules of 2019, give us the style that we've been striving to achieve every year, and that powerful, elegant, feminine touch that you ladies have influenced us to become.
Well, I think you've already summarized what we are doing, which is the powerful, femininity, elegance. But I think, as Philippe also said, it's about changing the style and embracing more of the elegance and the power, but wrapping it up with balance. Because for me, that's the most important thing, is how is the wine across? Is it harmonious? Is it complete from start to finish? And so we want to represent what Napa is. Napa does make big, bold wines, but we also want to represent a wine that is, friendly to drink now, but also can age. So it has to be a little bit more elegant. It has to have a little bit of softness that kind of hides that power and structure that you need for aging.
Beautifully said. Mm-hmm. Complete from start to finish.
Harmonious, yes.
It's like us. Look at the French boys. Aren't we complete from start to finish?
Very complete.
And we both have have chosen beautiful American wives, right, Philippe? Your beautiful chérie.
Thank you for reminding me.
How many years now?
94, so I, stopped counting many years ago.
He showed me the way, because we both are very fortunate to have lovely, as Frenchmen, American wives and bicultural children, really.
And you have your US citizenship or not yet?
Not yet, the US is not really accepting me yet to that level, sadly. If the US grants me the passport, I would be delighted to welcome it, but
We're still a little leery of giving
That's
you a
right.
passport.
So
we're
you will have.
but you do.
I was lucky enough to get past the stage a few years ago, so...
You see, when you gravitate with such talents, the passport just arrives and the naturalization happens. You don't have to learn the Constitution by heart.
No, you have to do a little bit of study, but and there's few questions on your way when you have to pass a little test, basically. But my wife just became French citizen, and the test was a little bit more serious.
Really?
For her, yes. She really wanted to speak French fluently,
Yes.
so which she does. And then she spent a good hour and a half with
Wow.
questions about, who is the prime minister in France in a way.
Joe Biden?
And now she knows more about France than you.
Exactly. So I, like always, feel like another dumb French-American guy in the valley.
But to let you know a little bit about Philippe, he's very athletic as well, and he's a great surfer. So we have the passion of the ocean as well in common. So he was born and raised in, the Bordeaux, the Arcachon, and the waves of the Southwest. So he's a great surfer.
Exactly.
So if you hang out in the Pacific Ocean, you may see him dancing on the waves. But let's have our palate dance. Are we ready?
We are.
So,
As stated earlier, we're going to taste 2 different lots, and we're going to pick which barrels we want to use, and they're listed for you.
yeah. So basically, dear friends, we all know it's only French barrels, and we're going to pick the origin, meaning the forest, meaning the style, meaning the grain and the cooper. So it's a very complex alchemy because we categorize from different toast levels, different provenance, and the whole idea is really to create the ultimate of what generation needs to be, which was so well defined.
Oh, absolutely.
Heritage and future.
And if I remember Stephanie correctly, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of your testing, but we have to pick a couple of barrels.
Right.
Out of those 4, basically, we have to decide about which ones can fit the best generation blends. So that's what I'm thinking.
So Philippe,
right now.
Right.
what is exciting, dear friends, is we always put ourselves an intention. An intention before tasting. What is the goal of the tasting and what are we trying to achieve? So maybe you want to give us your intention and maybe we go around the table briefly as far as what are we looking for to create?
We going to, when we make generation, we have to blend, usually a lot of different lots and trying to put them together for the best harmony and the style that we are looking for. To keep the vintage, like we talked about, at least the spirit of the vintage and also the spirit of generation. So today we did a little bit of preliminary work. Actually, we worked for the last a year or so at different stages of the wine to really try to narrow things down. Now we're at a point where today, right now, we have a lot going to represent. I'm trying to remember the percentage of this lot.
So this one, the first one that we're tasting is 2%. So we essentially only need to pick 1 barrel.
Oh, we need to, okay.
Only 1 barrel
So
for this lot,
basically, this lot represents a very little amount of wine into the overall blend of generation. And we want to kind of look at all the different components that we have because we have to pick, like Stephanie just said, only 1 barrel out of those 4 glasses. So that's the level, if you like, of detail.
That's great. So you see, it's kind of the entonnoir technique. We keep narrowing it down, narrow it down, narrow it down. We've done numerous amount of tastings as such, and the idea is to keep narrowing it down. It's like fragrance. It's never made in one go. And I really feel we have an amazing assortment here.
Exactly. And it's important for people to realize it's about basically, like you say, narrowing down, but and declassify, rejecting a lot of great lots, but who sometimes do not fit the profile that we want. And sometimes it's very painful because some of the lots that we are rejecting and declassified, if you wish, are really strong lots.
That's right.
And amazing wines that we wish they could really be part of this assemblage. But unfortunately, there's just minor little detail here.
It's all about being settled. And Philippe, my first observation as we talk about maybe intention, I think the definition of the vintage you gave, freshness, tannins, you know, that beautiful color, that wonderful acidity, you know, that
Purity of the fruit that I forgot to mention as well.
and you have it.
And energy. I think that's why I was reading some of the wine writers and I kind of agree with some of them, talking about the energy of this vintage. Sometimes we forgot about energy is usually related to basically longevity.
Totally agree. And I personally immensely feel it. We have a ranch here that is insane. What's your view?
I think they're all great. I think each of the wines or from each of the coopers has their own unique characteristics. Some are a little bit more bright and forward with the fruit. Other ones have a little bit more of a toast impact. I mean, I have my personal favorite as to which barrel I'd like to use.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to go around the table to think about our favorites. What about you, Thane?
Right? When we're thinking about generations, Stephanie has already put it, we're looking for integration, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are barrels on the table here that give you either more fruit pop on the aromatic, or maybe they're chaier and give you a little more cocoa, darker elements, earthier elements. And then there's some where that oak has integrated and really helped build up the palate. And when we think of generations, I think you're really looking for that integration. Do we want to go through and choose our favorites for this?
I think we just need everyone just says what their favorite barrel is. I mean, I can start.
Yes, exactly.
I'm the last one, Cabernet barrel.
For once we agree. I mean,
We've been more than that.
Just I wanted to say.
Actually, I'm not on the same page as you both are.
Well, that's okay, because it's his opinion that counts.
You see how respected I am. Thane, Kathy, where are you? It's a democratic process, and we don't have, as you said so kindly, and democratically have to agree.
And I always ask the second favorite, or sometimes even we rank the wines.
But I know where they go there. Kathy and Thane, tell us, where are you?
I'm with the first one, but to me it brought forward the fruit and a little bit more integration, and I like that. And it just has a slight oak nose, which I like.
The first one, the
neutral.
control, the neutral control.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you like
No, the Hermitage.
The Hermitage, right?
Yeah. And what about you?
Once the votes are in, you have to step away from your ballot. I wrote on my ballot, good integration.
And no changing your ballot. Nobody
I
counts.
voted for Tanso.
Okay, so Stephanie, walk us about what we tasted here.
So we are tasting 4 different coopers from a vineyard in Oakville. So the first one is a neutral French oak barrel, meaning that the barrel is a couple of years old and we're not really expecting a lot of oak or toast impact in it. The next 3 are different coopers. It's an Hermitage cooper, Baron cooper, and then Taranto cooper. And so we're each picking what our favorite coopers are for the Generations blend. And without, none of us have really discussed this, but it seems to me that we all, for this wine, we're preferring the Taranto barrel.
Except JC, which
Well,
do you prefer?
I'm on the camp of Kathy George. The Hermitage for me was very harmonious, very balanced, extremely velvety. It really, for me, echoed so well the description of the vintage as far as freshness, fruit, beautiful notes of acidity. Maybe it doesn't have the intensity of the Taranto, but I'm a little French boy who is very sensitive and emotional. So I like elegance rather than ultimate power. So I'm with Kathy on this one. I could see why on a long-lasting, maybe bigger additional value to the ultimate blend, you want to go on the Taranto one. It's richer, more intense, more concentrated.
More seamless from start to finish.
There's a little bit more energy and a feel of slightly more complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
what about if we were to do this?
No, we're not doing that. And this is a democracy. 3 minutes.
We could.
Taranto.
Do we believe in democracy? Since when democracy exists?
we're doing-
Alexis de Tocqueville wrote Democracy in America, but it was in the 18th century, dear friends. It was a long time ago. Has democracy prevailed in America? Ooh, this is a bigger topic.
We're not going to go down.
We're gonna stay for dinner.
So we like the Taranto barrel, and I think now that we've picked it, we do have some pre-blends of generations that we should taste.
Try,
Yeah, let's try those 3.
Let's keep going.
Yeah. So these are 3 blends that we've done for generations in a previous session with Philippe, and now we're just trying to taste it and decide which one we like. There are subtle variations between these 3 different blends of which vineyards from St. Helena that we're choosing.
Yes.
So the percentage of St. Helena and Oakville is roughly the same. The variation is in which vineyards we're using.
It's important to go back to these blends and taste and make sure that from one day to the next, everyone agrees that that's going to be the best blend, in the future.
Absolutely. Philippe, why don't you walk us through quickly through each of them so
Yes.
everybody can just understand the distinction of each of the glass we have?
Oh, absolutely. And for me, what is important, on those kind of tastings, like we had previously testing those blends, and we want to make sure a favorite from last week is the same this week. And so until we all agree, we're going to repeat the process. This is,
Very
very
tedious.
detailed because sometimes those blends are so close that we might kind of have a different favorite
Yeah.
today. We'll see. But overall, we always, obviously, the nose is always kind of the first thing that we're doing, and I'm going to do fast. I'm trying to be a little bit more gentle. It's not the primary factor of a decision, but it's really a kind of guide you.
You taste with your nose.
Absolutely, and sometimes I always make sure I have the same amount of wine honestly in all the glasses. This is a little less because that can also be a factor about
That's
how
right.
you smell it. So right now what I like is it's a little bit of a serious, darker profile that's very appealing to me. I know in California sometimes we're looking for darker fruit profile, which is usually the blackcurrant of the day, the blueberries as well. You can think about the panel of all the berries we can have. So we're going a little bit to the blacker berry style.
That's right.
And then after there's a toasty, the berry also bring a little bit of toastiness, kind of enhance a little bit this darker feel. That makes the wine almost a little bit more serious, but there is also a very delicate nose. It's not too aggressive.
Yes.
And that's also something that we want, because our nose can be weird. When we smell something, we don't know what we smell, but it's a little weird.
Yeah.
So we want to have something, obviously, who have the pleasing factor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so smelling all those things, I think they all smell great, so I didn't have a huge differences between all of them.
But there is variation. That's the beauty of it.
Yes.
We've been doing this tasting day after day, and even still now, you see significant distinction in each of the wines, which makes it so exciting.
Totally. So I'm just going to try to have a little bit a mouthfeel impression on each of those wines, which is a little bit, we were talking about the tempo, the entry is important, the mid-palate is important, and the finish is more important, because that's where people remember, is the finish of the wine. So ideally everything needs to be in sync, but the finish is really the key. Well, the first one is very strong.
Yeah.
That's what I can say.
Woo!
Because there's really what I call a serious wine needs a lot of structure. First of all, first impression. You know, the texture of the wine is also important, and you feel like there's a certain thickness of the texture, means, you know, it's not soft to a point where you almost feel like water. So here there's like an element of thickness that I love. And then the density, the mid-palate, really carries this wine. And then on the finish, the tannins are always, in generation, there's a lot of tannins, but they are soft.
That's right.
They are not aggressive, and we want to make sure the fruit is coming through as well.
Yeah.
The people remember not only the tannin, but the fruit carries.
So, very important, Philippe, I'm going to repeat it for everyone. The opening, the curtains open, that's the first impression, the mid-palate, act 1, 2, and 3, and then the finish. For me, it's all about the finish. I love long-lasting wine. I don't want to put a lot in my mouth, a little bit, and it keeps coming and tell me an evolutionary story. And I think when you taste wine, and as we conceive generation, we want this lasting, forever impression of the heritage, the present, and the future. As you said so well, as the definite generation. And for me, that's what I'm looking for in each of those wines, is that very long, powerful, lingering.
Something to stay with you for a long time.
So what about number 2?
It's very
and 3?
precise. I like the number 2. It's a little, what I say, cleaner in terms of the texture, is a little softer in the approach. I love the aromatics. There's somehow, I'm not sure exactly why yet, a little bit almost like a menthol freshness to the wine that I enjoy. And the wine feels very complete. You know, there's like, it sits there with you, and talking about lengths, you know, the flavors stay with you for a long time. So I really like it as well. Different style for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely some strengths here.
And that menthol could be an accent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really the accent. It's like, it's what we feel is like, at least for me, menthol, it's a good thing for wine in California, especially combined with chocolate. Imagine, you know, minty chocolate, for example.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can put like mint with chocolate and berries and all those things, and see the picture of it, which is a good combination.
Exactly.
It's more like when you start to have green bean kind of character, or other, I would say, less attractive flavors that we...
and I like that leather finish on the third.
Leather.
Do you feel that wonderful, soft, elegant leather that is, makes me think of, you know, that very eloquent scene that, you know, brings the wholeness together of the two.
Leather is a good. So the last one, it's I would say it's another very different style of wine, and you're talking about very few percent of differences between all those three. But you really have 3 different personalities.
Yeah.
We feel like they all could age very well. They all have all the different factors that we are looking for. But that's the difficulty of our job sometimes, because we like them all, but we have to think about what fit the best for generation. So in those cases, when it's too close, we like to test the previous vintages of a generation to remind us a little bit more the style of the wine.
Which was a big hit.
Yes.
The last vintage.
2018, dear friends, congratulations to this amazing magical table, the highest rank ever on generations. I mean, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal because, you know, I think wine is a lesson of humility. We want to be pleasing ourselves, pleasing our guests, but pleasing as well the critiques of wine, and making sure that they keep us in check and balance, and we progress, because progress is not among ourselves only as a stricto sensu closed world, but it's about opening our world to others and criticism and constructive ideas. So I'm very pleased to say 2018 was such a big hit. It's a big act to follow.
But we can do it.
We can do it!
I have no doubt.
So what's your view, Stephanie, if we have to narrow it down for our friends who are been sticking with us on this amazing generation session, and keep in mind, we're showing you the shorter version. It's been days after days after days of preparation and hard work. So Stephanie, what's your thought there?
I have some pretty strong opinions one way or another in terms of which direction I prefer for generations. I like the first one, but it also, for me, is a little bit more structure driven. And I think of generations as something that has a little bit more volume to it. So it's a fantastic wine. I feel like it just needs a little bit more
So about
volume.
sample A.
Sample A, yes. The second glass, or glass B, has a great texture to it, but and also has a little bit more of that lifted, and I think when you're talking about menthol, I'm not sure if, for me, if menthol is the right term. I feel like it has a little bit more lift to the aromatics, and maybe that just kind of gives it, like, spice a little bit more lift. And then the last glass, for me, has this amazing balance to it.
Yeah. Quite a distinction. Philippe, anyone? As we're gonna have to vote.
Yes, so in those cases, I always like to rank the wine favorite to least favorite, and see if, you know, everybody agreed on a statement. If I kind of agree, very nice. I mean, for Stephanie, the glass D, blend D, will be your favorite.
Blend E is my favorite.
Oh, I thought we did C, E, and D.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
So
wanted
we'll
to
say,
know.
yeah. Second glass is my favorite.
Ah, second glass is your favorite. Okay.
Or blend E is my favorite. Blend
Yeah,
C.
let's go 1, 2, 3, just so everybody. So
Okay, so then if we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, then
Yeah.
I will go
3, 2,
3,
1, 2.
3, 1, 2.
All right.
There we go.
Thane, please.
I like 3, 1, 2.
You like 3,
I
1,
didn't
2.
understand where you
It's
were
okay.
going. That's why we need to put it down to paper, right?
Right.
that's right.
And
For me, it was 3, 2, 1.
Indeed, me too.
oh wow.
Kathy and I are very aligned today, Kathy.
Wow, Kathy.
And what about you, Philippe?
I had 3, 1, 2 as well.
Oh, good. Well,
you know.
you align and Kathy and I are aligned.
But I think, obviously, I think, you know, the idea will be, in this case, for example, like we have an outliner, we always think that seriously.
Yeah.
Means, you know, that basically the glass 2 and glass 3 means are very close.
That's right.
And so sometimes we have to decide to retest. You know, we tested 3 blends, maybe next time we test 2 blends.
So you see, we keep narrowing down. So, dear friends, today, as you can see how complex, exciting, and fabulous it is for one wine, how many sessions we do. So we decided today to agree to disagree. In other words, it's like the votes. We're not yet consensusly 100%. So we're going to come back again, 2 and 3. Right,
It's
Philippe?
the next text.
Maybe next week, and we're going to
Exactly.
fresh mind.
Totally, and hopefully next week we'll all agree on the final blend. It's
But,
exciting.
I mean, overall though, the level is very high,
The level is very high.
right?
We can't go wrong with any of these three blends.
Yes.
We're just looking at the minutia and trying to pick the absolute best of the best.
So dear friends, thank you for being with us. It's exciting to share the details
Cheers.
behind the curtains with the stars, making the great wines, creating taste, creating senses, influencing flavor. And I really believe we can say this table has defined the new Napa Valley. And Philippe, Stephanie, Kathy, Thane, to you and this amazing, exciting fun we have together, to the future of Napa in our hands!
To the 100 points of, Raymond